And now it's my pleasure to introduce our special guest. Ryan Reynolds is a creator, producer, writer, actor, entrepreneur, and co-owner of one of the oldest football clubs in the world. He is also a proud Canadian who has a tremendous global impact via his production company, Maximum Effort. Reynolds burst onto the scene in the late 90s as one of the leads in the hit TV sitcom Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, and has since starred in countless box office hits, ranging from beloved romantic comedies like Definitely, Maybe, and The Proposal, to thrillers like the 2010 festival selection Buried, and blockbusters such as the hugely successful Deadpool movies that require no introduction. In addition to his on-screen roles, Reynolds has been a driving force as a decision maker in Hollywood and a highly successful co-owner of Wrexham Association Football Club, as documented in the Emmy Award-winning series, Welcome to Wrexham. Earlier this year, he was appointed and invested as an Office of the Order of Canada, and last night he joined us to present the highly anticipated world premiere of John Candy, I Like Me, which he produced. Please join me in welcoming Ryan Reynolds.
Thank you. Wow. That introduction made my blood pressure skyrocket.
Okay, here we are. Ryan and I just both lost our glasses backstage. That's why we're a little late. We had
Why
both,
I'm wearing Estelle Getty's glasses. Any Golden Girl. Pick a Golden Girl. Those are them, yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to be putting mine on and off because I'm both nearsighted and farsighted, strangely.
Yeah.
But here we go. We've got a bunch of questions for Ryan today, and then we're going to hopefully have about half an hour. We solicited some audience questions in advance, so hopefully I'll be able to get to those as well. Okay, so starting question. We have to ask you, we had such an incredible opening last night. I feel like there was a little bit of a, Captain Canada competition happening between you and the Prime Minister, I have to say. A lot of excitement.
Sort of an unfair fight there. Because one day he will no longer be Prime Minister. And, no, I'm joking. I knew the Prime Minister before he was the Prime Minister, and he's got a great sense of humor, and oh man, he crushed. I said to Colin Hanks, my partner on this, on the John Candy doc, I said, in the immortal words of Jerry Lee Lewis, never follow a killer. He did a little too well out there, if you ask me. Yeah.
Absolutely. But we want to ask you, what did it feel like to share the world premiere of this film with an audience here in Toronto, especially in John Candy's hometown?
Well, I mean, you never make a movie to hit a release date unless you're a studio, a financier, or a producer. But we had always kind of reverse engineered this to hopefully premiere at TIFF. Being the opening night film is an honor we don't take for granted. That was not something that we were expecting in any way, shape, or form. But there is no other place. I mean, you just can't. This is not a Telluride or a Lake Tahoe National Film Festival movie. This is a Toronto International Film Festival film. So I think John would have, if he were here, he would have loved the fact that last night we were all sitting together in a movie theater, and we were in Toronto, and his two kids and his wife were sitting in that audience, and in some ways it was bittersweet because it felt like we were saying goodbye in a way, but we were also opening what might be the last John Candy movie to ever open.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bittersweet. And I think, that speaks quite a bit about John Candy's performances, I think, throughout his career. When you were growing up in Vancouver in the 80s, John Candy was at the height of his fame. So, SCTV, of course, but such incredible films like National Lampoon's Vacation, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Uncle Buck, icons, of course.
Yeah.
What are your memories of watching these films and his performances?
Well, I watched SCTV all the time. I mean, I guess, I don't know if it was either BCTV or Rogers or one of those fancy companies here in Canada said, hey, we could make some serious cash off of these, just rerunning them all the fucking time. And I, at that point, tend to agree with that. I loved it. And the thing I loved, now I internalized this when I was younger. I didn't intellectualize it. I was too young to intellectualize it. But I internalized that, when you watch SCTV, some of the sketches are brilliant. Like, they're actually genius. And some of them are just really, just patently terrible. And that's what makes it special. That is life. You would see them experimenting and playing and really kind of enjoying the lack of perfection. And you juxtapose that to now, and I see this all the time. I'm right now teaching what I need to learn myself over and over and over again, but I see it with my kids, is this kind of refusal to fail or to put yourself in a position in which you may fail or suck or be bad at something, because you really cannot be good at anything unless you're willing to be bad at it. And these guys were very comfortable embracing the suck. And they did it over and over again, and they played in so many different sandboxes on those shows that they had a little bit of experience in everything. And it was so revelatory as I got older and realized, it was no longer a feeling I had, but I could intellectualize it. I was like, yes, they let themselves be bad. And when you do that, you can go be good at something, or in my case, at times mediocre. Even that works. But I loved watching all of that stuff. And the vacation movies. God, my dad and I would watch Vacation, which is, that's not a John Candy movie. He shows up at the end in a reshoot to save the movie, But you think of it as a John Candy movie. When my kids wake up too early, I go, sorry, kids, park's closed, like John. And, these are these things that are kind of indelible. And I just, he just really touched me in a way that I wasn't expecting. He's also very reminiscent to my brother. My brother's a big man, and my brother's 6'10". And and you think like, good God, like I don't want to trifle with him, but like he does not want to trifle with you. He's these are the big, the bigger guy can sometimes be picked on, can be yelled at, and these people feel okay doing that. Every fight I got in as a kid, like physical fight, was in defense of my brother, who's 2 years older than me, because he wouldn't hurt a fly, but he was huge, and he looked imposing. So I feel like John had a bit of that too. People, there's a lot of things we left out of the documentary. Journalists just saying stuff that you can't believe. One of them I called. I didn't put it in the movie, but I called this journalist just to say, do you recall this moment? And I wasn't trying to shame them or teach them a lesson, or who am I to say do that? I actually was calling to say, I took it out of the movie, but I would put it in the movie if you wanted to talk about it. Because maybe you have something to say about it. Maybe you have something to say about your journey, when it comes to something like that. And we had such a thoughtful conversation about it, And I realized you asked that question when I was 12 years old, and I've talked that long. I'm 48 now. And I'm sorry. It's just, I'm still all up in here. There's several tunnels I can take. Sorry, anyway.
But, I'm going to, 12 years old, that's perfect. That's exactly where we want to be.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask you,
Backstage, she was like, we don't want yes or no answers. I was like, lady.
No, this is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Absolutely.
Fine.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But as I said, 12 years old is perfect. One of your first starring roles was 15, which aired from 1990 through 1993.
right?
What was that experience for you, and how did that impact you at such a young age?
Well, the show, what wasn't great, like at all, but they filmed it. I think it paid $250 a week, which that's not exploitation, but it's borderline. I learned a ton. I really learned that I hated it. Not the show even. Just I didn't like acting. That's when I started to get into improv comedy. But I did start to learn at a pretty young age discipline. To do, this show basically would do an episode a day. You'd film on multiple cameras, like a soap opera. It was a soap opera. It was a kid's soap opera, and you'd start the season with a binder that was, I'm not joking, this thick, and it had 18 episodes in it, and you were required to shove that binder in the middle of the table, big round table, and everyone had to, by memory, all 18 episodes, which is insane, I've worked with actors that can't remember a simple grunt. And I just thought, wow, at the time it was so stressful for a kid. And certainly talking to Macaulay Culkin through the course of this John Candy documentary, and I think about the pressures he was under and under the spotlight. I mean, nobody watched this show. I can't imagine what Macaulay went through, but it did teach me discipline. And it also, thankfully, I skirted through it without any degree of fame. I don't even think the editor saw the show. Which, if you think about it, that's impossible. I skirted, I went home, I got home, I resurrected my paper route. That's how I'm gonna make money from this point forward. And then went through high school and did improv comedy and had the best time just doing that, and ended up the natural graduation from improv comedy, of course, was working at Safeway, midnight to 8 a.m., driving a forklift, and then started college for 45 minutes, left, and moved to LA.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing you stuck with it, working at
Stuck
Safeway.
with what? It sounds like I quit at most things you just said. But yeah. I also have a fear of intimacy.
We're going to go to that later.
Okay, good, thank you. Good. I was hoping I'd cry.
A few years later, you landed one of the lead roles in the sitcom Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. What was it like for you to make the professional move from Canada to LA? And I know you've talked, I think it was an article where you talked a little bit about being a Canadian in Hollywood and feeling like you always had to over-deliver.
Yeah, I think that's a common denominator with Canadians is this sort of there's a commitment to what's right, and sometimes that can go too far. I know for a fact when I experience injustice or I experience somebody that I work with, or if somebody's done something that's a lack of integrity, I tend to get really upset about it because I feel shame around it too. Like, why didn't I see it? Why didn't I, do something about it earlier? Or why didn't I, that sort of thing. And I think Canadians have that, but that same mechanism is actually what really allows us, I think, to be even more productive, So I love to underpromise and overdeliver. I love to speak to people directly. That's been a huge advantage in my life. I mean, many people in my position are surrounded by all kinds of people. They have a moat of people around them, basically, to ward off any actual communication or consequence. And boy, does that fuck your life up. I mean, that's why you hear stories of people who are just entitled beyond measure, or have no real understanding of human nature or the world. And these are all the things we need to do our job. You need to understand human nature and connection. And so when I moved to America, which makes it sound like I came from the Baltics or something, I was tired of standing in line for bread, and I decided to grab a pool toy and float. Anyway, shush. I moved there with absolutely no expectations. My main expectation was to not get killed and food at some point. And I had very little money, and I wanted to join the Groundlings. And you couldn't just walk in and get on the main stage of the Groundlings. You had to go through the class. So in order to pay for the class, I met with an agency to get a job. I needed a visa. I needed something. I needed a way to make money. And I said, send me out on just five auditions, and I swear to God I'll come back with one. And I was just lying my ass off. But I did. I got a sitcom. I said, as long as they're sitcoms. And I got a sitcom. And my expectations were always nothing, like minimal. I was so happy if I just got the job as the wacky neighbor to the wacky neighbor. You know, every third episode, that guy on Home Improvement who's only ever see this much of his face. I'll do that. I'll do that all day. And it was honestly one of the best jobs of my life. It was everything in one. It was improv comedy, it was all those things. It was not a hit show, neither was it a failure. It was right in the middle, and aim for the middle is my motto. But it really was great because we didn't experience this excessive fame or any of the things that come along with that, but I really got to experiment and play, and this is where my Canadian roots worked against me in some ways, because I remember I was on stage, and one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from Danny Jacobson, who was the creator of a show called Mad About You. It was a sitcom way back in the day, and wonderful guy. His niece, I work with, Wendy Jacobson, on all the Marvel stuff now. She's an executive over there. But Danny pulled me aside. I think it was the third episode we'd ever shot of Two Guys and a Girl. And he noticed I'd throttle it, like I'd pull back in front of the live audience. And it was because I was trying to give my co-stars space, like to shine, because that's what improv is. When improv comedy is like, you're inviting the other person in. You're not trying to win or beat them or be the star. You're trying to make us all good. And I kept sort of making room for that. And you can't really do that on a sitcom. You know, you have to take the stage. And that's what Danny said. He pulled me aside and he grabbed me like by the scruff. And he went, Reynolds, take the fucking stage. Take it. And I said, Danny, I'm peeing right now. You frighten me. You're large. And you're powerful. And he said, you take it. You know, and if you take the stage, you will help that person. You will help that person. And everyone will get better. And he was right. You know, I went out there and I gave it my all. And I started writing. And I started improving and playing. And it was just the greatest job of my life. I would wake up, go to work, rehearse for 5 or 6 hours. Like, that's not a job. I would watch like Dennis Franz on NYPD Blue walk into his soundstage, and he'd come out like literally a month later. And I'm pretty sure we were all kind of paid the same. I was just like, this is crazy. It was just wonderful. And that sort of, so my expectations were very minimal. And then it led to a movie. I've got a movie called Van Wilder, National Lampoon's Van Wilder. Yeah, and I didn't know who I was or what I was doing. I was just doing impressions of other people. I was like, National Lampoon's, well, I got to work on my Chevy Chase. And I did. I just did Chevy Chase. If you watch that movie, even bad reviews I would read, and I'd be like, Reynolds is just doing Chevy Chase. And I'd be like, yes! Nailed it. So, yeah, you cultivate a voice as you move on, yeah.
So we are going to take a look at a clip from Two Guys. We're going to watch you taking the stage.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so it's season 2, episode 2. In this scene, your character, Berg, uses all his charm to convince his 2 best friends to go on a vacation to Aruba.
Oh.
So let's roll the clip.
Wow. Wow. God. My face was huge. Crazy.
Haven't changed the bits.
No, yeah, wow. I'm glad it was a 30-minute clip. Thank you, AV department, wherever you are. Appreciate it. I look forward to future humiliations on that screen. I'm sure you have locked and loaded.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about...
It'd be great if you were just like, I think we've made a mistake. Sorry, go on.
talk about sort of your next phase in your career. You know, as you played many lead roles in a number of highly popular romantic comedies. Definitely, Maybe, and The Proposal. You know, I will just share, prior to my TIFF gig, I used to be an executive producer at the National Film Board of Canada. And every year we would have this moment where we would have to do these Governor General Award-winning films for sort of, you know, iconic Canadians. And all the women in the studio would say to me, Anita, if we're doing one of the Ryans, I volunteer, right? So there's a Ryan chemistry thing happening, of course. So my question is there a secret to creating the kind of on-screen chemistry that you need with your co-leads for the success of this type of genre?
That's a great question. You know, chemistry is something that is either there or it's not. You can create it, though. You know, in the edit room, you know, I don't know if there's any aspiring filmmakers in this audience anywhere, maybe a couple, okay. In the edit room, when you overlap dialogue, it's chemistry. It feels like chemistry. It feels like exactly like chemistry. So when you get two characters talking at the same time, we can still hear what they're saying, but it sounds like they're comfortable with each other. So it's a beautiful part of the story. Like, they say the last, you know, part of the writing process is the edit room, and that's true, it really is. So when you get characters overlapping, that'll create chemistry. But if you just have that natural chemistry, God, it's beautiful. I mean, it is just a wonderful thing. So Sandra Bullock had been a friend of mine for over a decade before we even shot The Proposal. I mean, one of my greatest memories I have is dancing in a nightclub all night with Sandra and George Michael. Like, all night. And I go to bed at 8:30 p.m. Mostly. I mean, it was just like unbelievable. And we had so much fun on that movie, and you can feel it. You can sometimes feel it when people are really enjoying each other on screen. Howard Hawks is a filmmaker who I love, who I think he's been dead about 422 years, but he would do films that the scripts were about 200 pages long because the dialogue was so rapid fire, it was so fast. And I always felt like that with Sandy. We would kind of have this back and forth that was just like just a Gatling gun of words, and it was a beautiful thing. I feel like that with Hugh. Hugh Jackman is, you know, my other, you know, romantic comedy partner. You know, known him for 17 years now, and it's a bit like that, you know. So yeah, chemistry is a great thing when it's there. Sometimes it's not, and that's a bummer when it's not, and it's rare. I find it's rare that it's not, you know. You have to, because we're good, like, you know, Canadians can shapeshift a little bit too. Like, we're okay. We can, like, I can talk like you. I can come over to your side and, you know, sort of understand where you're coming from. But sometimes you're just like, wow, yeah, I'm sorry. This guy, he pissed on the salad bar at lunch. I'm not going to have chemistry with that. I don't know what to do with that. I'll name names later. But yeah, so chemistry, but you can actually, chemistry can override even shitty writing. Like, it's a great thing when you have it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, there was absolutely wonderful chemistry, and we're going to take a look at a clip from The Proposal. In this scene, your character, Andrew, realizes that he has leverage over his boss after she forced him into a fake marriage with her. So let's roll the clip.
Oh, Sandra Bullock. She's good. Oh, God, I love that woman. Yeah.
Romantic comedies, one of the oldest Hollywood genres, but a really good romantic comedy, I think is really hard to make. Can you share a little bit, in this kind of relationship with Sandra, working together, how much is it sort of just sticking with the script, or do you work together to kind of find a dynamic or ad-lib? We'd love to just hear about what that process is like.
Well, there's some ad-libbing for sure. I mean, that's, you know, this is a stage in my career where I'm not ready to have authorship, though. So, you know, I'm really trying to just, you know, show up, make the people I'm working with happy, and that's my job. You know, how do I just do that? you know. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you're working with someone who like Sandra, you know, if you work with a great tennis player, you just get better, you know. So batting the ball back with her was just a dream, and I got better, and she invited me to play a lot more. So there's tons of improv. There's tons of little moments you find. Now, when you sort of fast forward just a little bit to, I don't know, for me, it was around 2014. At this point, I'm a little bit, you know, how do I put it? I'm in actor jail. You know, not getting a lot of work. I've had some big sort of highly publicized bombs, you know, and that's where you kind of go, well, hold on a second. Now, I have no authorship in that. You know, if I'm going to fail, I'd rather be the architect of my own demise than, you know, and if I'm going to succeed, I would want to be the architect of that win, you know. So I started to think about it a little bit differently then and take a lot more authorship over the situation, and that really changed my entire life. But I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not worked with people like Sandra, you know, worked with, you know, incredible actors like Rachel Weisz, and, you know, just watching these people who have spent their lifetime perfecting a craft while I've spent most of my life dicking around. You know, so you're really like watching these people, and you're studying and trying to learn, and also allowing yourself to fail. And allowing yourself to, you know, it's that thing. I always trust people. I work in multiple industries now, and I trust people so much more when they say I don't know. Like if somebody's like, hey, you just said a word that I don't know. What does that word mean? And you know, and I do that too. You know, because it's how we learn. But that's a trusting thing to do, and I think that that's very important. So this is where I started to learn to say to know that when you say I don't know is okay. And that people will help you if you say, I don't know. If you pretend to know, you know, bad things happen. So, you know, so some of the other movies I did after that, they failed. And I was offered them based on the hit that this was. This was a huge hit. And it was a two-hander, and, you know, I was still, you know, coming up. And I was very lucky that my career was an aggregate. It was very slow. I mean, half the people I started out with are dead. And a lot of them have gone home or back to their town, wherever they came from. And then other ones just, you know, I don't even know where they went or what happened. So it's a tough business, you know. And I talked to Macaulay Culkin again, in this John Candy interview. And you just go, wow, what he's gone through has made him such an interesting human being right now. You're going to see Macaulay Culkin, by the way, like win an Oscar or, you know, work on something that is profound at any point, because he has all of that depth to work from. And I just think it's very important to keep your head screwed on right. And Canada helped me with that, if we're gonna go back to that theme, which is that, you know, my feet were on the ground, because Canada was a third parent. It was to me. I mean, it was, yeah. My mom is actually here somewhere in the audience, so I would say second parent, but you know, she'd take offense to that. But no, it really was, and you know, that business is tough. It can destroy you. You can farm out all of your self-worth to all the wrong things, and you know, so for me, having a slow build was very, very important, and I'm now so grateful for that. You know, I can be calm when I walk outside here and there's people yelling and screaming and stuff. I can sort of see I can be grateful for it, and at the same time I can see the illusion of it and the sort of the thin ice of it and the kind of all those things. I've had those experiences, you know. Yeah.
I think the exploration that you're speaking about, and the openness and the risk-taking, you know, has really become a signature of your career, you know, in the work that you've done. You know, very close to the proposal, I want to talk about a film that screened here at TIFF in 2010. It was also the first time you might have been at the festival in a lead role, possibly. Yep. The film we're talking about is called Buried, and we actually have a picture of you with director Rodrigo Cortez and screenwriter Chris Sparling from the TIFF Portrait Studio. So we're just going to show this photo right here.
God almighty, look at that fucking guy. So I look like I went to college. Rodrigo, wonderful director, and Chris Sparling, it's a totally oh, you're just writing everything I'm fucking saying. Wow. Touché. Touché. I wonder if that bouillabaisse is ready. I don't know. I do not read. Yeah, oh, yo. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop that. I am so sorry. That was, that was superfluous. I'm incorrigible, and the word supercalifragilisticexpialidocious keeps running through my head. Buried.
You broke it. Ryan, you broke
Right.
it.
Fuck. Yeah, sorry. Good, buried. I'm gonna come back when they're not here and just go nuts. Buried was a film I did. It was an isolation film, sort of in the spirit of Rope or Lifeboat. Hitchcock kind of did these movies that seemed seemingly impossible. This is 2009, I shot it, for 2010, I believe. And I'm the only person in the whole movie, you know, and that was a scary, terrifying kind of experience. And the movie was, I would say that that's a movie that I did that was good. It was really good. And I feel weird saying that, but it was a really good movie. I'm really proud of it. And the whole thing takes place in a coffin, basically. You know, a guy wakes up, he's a contractor, he's in Afghanistan, he's an American contractor, wakes up in a box, has no idea how he got there. All he has is a phone and a lighter, and he's running out of time, and he's panicking. And the whole movie is just in the box. So it's a technical challenge, obviously, for a cinematographer. Edu Grau was the cinematographer's name. He works, some of you, you know who he is? Works with Tom Ford a lot. He's done, you know, Single Man, I think is the movie. He's wonderful. Like, what he did there was incredible. And just, you know, that's it. You just have a one person, and this is what I think filmmaking is all about, like taking a swing like that. 16 days of shooting. I remember Rodrigo said, let's rehearse for 5 or 6 days. And I said, go fuck yourself. I'm not rehearsing that. Just fucking roll the camera, dude. And it's gonna get nuts. And, cause you can't rehearse that. You just gotta believe it. And if I believe it, you'll believe it. And we go. And that's what we did. And I still to this day do not know why we shot it in Barcelona. But we did. I was like, this could have been shot in my living room. You know, would have been happy to host. But we shot it in Barcelona, Spain. And it was a movie I just loved. And, you know, and also right around the time where I realized that I was not going to have a job very long. I'm not kidding. I was just, these movies, it's a great movie. No one went and saw it. No one saw it. It's Mississippi Grind is a movie I did that I love passionately. Did not work. The movie worked. It's an incredible movie. But people didn't go to see it, and I recognized that, and I thought, wow, I have to return the investment that's made in me. This is show business. It's not just show, you know. I have to produce something that these people who invest their money in can get a return. So that's around the time I started to shift gears a little bit to do work that I found fulfilling and rewarding, but could bring in audiences and, you know, kind of grow me a little bit. I had to get Green Lantern out of the way first. You know, and R.I.P.D. But yeah, the studios survived. Yeah. I was always gonna say if they could do like a Green Lantern again, you wouldn't call it Green Lantern 1, you'd call it Green Lantern Chapter 11. Full bankruptcy. Yeah.
Well, we're very proud to have shown that film, and
Buried,
I think
not Green Lantern.
But, just to say, it really just shows that, at festivals like TIFF, we show the biggest, star-driven vehicles that we've got, many galas this year, as well as, incredible independent films in all our sections. And, that's really the value of a festival like TIFF.
It really is. And I had a conversation with Cameron Bailey last night, who's, runs the festival as well, as many of you know. Wonderful, wonderful guy who cares deeply, which is the thing you look for in anyone at any job. And I'm gonna do a smaller film next year that I'm terrified to do, which is a good sign, that I hope to bring here to this festival for the next September.
Yes, you heard it here. You heard it here. So we're now in the late 2010s, and I think, in terms of, you've been talking about your creative voice, authorship, of course, Deadpool. This is where we are.
Yeah.
You had actually first starred as Wade Wilson, AKA Deadpool, in the film X-Men Origins, Wolverine, 2009. And then managed to give the character...
Title at all. It's not a clunky, rolls right off the tongue.
His own franchise in 2016.
Yeah.
Deadpool. The movie is also one of your first credits as a producer. Why was it so important for you to be involved as a producer from this point on, being the star of the screen as well? Can you talk about that?
Well, I again, to go back to Green Lantern in the less sort of funny yet horrifying tragedies context, Green Lantern was actually the greatest, one of the greatest experiences of my life because, well, one, it was a joy to shoot. It really was. But I also noticed while I was shooting that I really kind of had shot a lot of movies at this point, a lot of different kinds of movies, and I sort of thought, maybe I kind of know what I'm doing a little. I'm not trying to flex on anybody, but I was still in this yes, no, yes sir, no sir, how high can I jump, sir, kind of way of being. And I would watch creative decisions being made, and I would think okay, that's a good creative decision. That is a nail that will go in a coffin that I alone will lay in the future. And at this point, I'm savvy enough to realize that nobody's going to say it's whether it's Green Lantern, whether it's R.I.P.D., whether it's any of these movies that are bigger that didn't work, they're going to call it the Ryan Reynolds movie that didn't work, and that's the name of the game. I'm not complaining about that. This is a business I signed up for, and I understand that. So I was like, well, if that's the case, I want to be able to have some authorship in that. So Deadpool came along after that. I had shot test footage for it a couple of years before, and the studio, just really didn't want to do anything with it. It was an R-rated comic book movie, which is just, you just don't do those anymore. Blade was one they did in '98 with Stephen Norrington. It was great. It's an amazing movie. But they never really did them again. And at least not at scale. And Deadpool's a fringe character. People didn't really know who he was. And I loved it. I was obsessed with it because I loved that he knew he was in a comic book movie. It was kind of meta. It was kind of new. But the test footage existed. And it really was a case study in how this could work. And they just wouldn't do anything with it. So then some asshole leaks it online, and I'm looking at the guy in the mirror brushing my teeth, and I'm like, dude, what have you done? This could be punishable by law. But the internet forced the studio to say, well, we're going to make this movie. And I was, 24 hours later, that movie had a green light. And yes, I cheated a little. But I think I was onto something that people would be interested in. And I'm grateful that I kind of listened to that instinct, and I'm grateful that I did the wrong thing in that moment. Really what I internalized on Green Lantern, why I say it was one of the best things I ever did, is that, too much time and too much money will destroy creativity. It will ruin it. Constraint and pressure will create asymmetric thought, and you will start to think outside the box. There are sequences that, I produced the movie, but I also wrote it with Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who are friends of mine, who are brilliant. We cracked the story in our first meeting. And it basically I'm using the character. I'm not a comic book nerd the way some people might think I am. I'm really not. I use the character, and this is the perfect character to use. The first one I use for shame, to tell a story about shame. Second one about family, and the third one is about redemption. And John Candy is about redemption. Wesley Snipes appearing in Deadpool and Wolverine is redemption. Hugh Jackman appearing in Wolverine in the yellow Admiral banana suit is about redemption. And these things are very, very important. And redemption to me sometimes can mean, like with John Candy, Wesley Snipes, something or somebody you miss desperately, but you didn't know you missed them. And when you give that, when you create a story around that, or you show that on screen, it has a feeling like nothing else. And all of that is kind of derived around constraint, thinking in different ways. Like when, Marvel said, what do you want to do in the third movie? And, now you have access because Disney bought Fox, and now we're all owned by Marvel, even you guys. Sorry to say, you're all Marvel characters. They're going to make you do that scene where you all have to run before the bad thing happens, like where the whole town scatters. And you know why they do that, right? So they don't have to pay a bunch of background artists while they do the fight sequences for 6 weeks. Yeah, it's a true story. It's an evil empire. Yeah, but when I did Deadpool 1, I was like, there's no money. It's a $56 million budget for a movie that should have been budgeted 150 or something for these kinds of movies. They're just huge budgets. So instead of spectacle, we used character. We wrote a dozen alt jokes to any given moment, dozen alt lines for this. We first wrote a comedy, we ripped it up, and then you wrote an emotional story, and then added the comedy, and that's the same process that happened with the other movies too. And you start to just supplant all of that spectacle that people are normally used to with character, and they remember that. They don't remember a city floating up in the air and exploding as much as they remember a line that made them laugh their guts out. I think back to movies like Fletch. I watched Fletch, and there's tons of big laughs in the movie, but there's the weird ones that I remember, like, I'll have a cup of hot fat and bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia. Where you're just like, oh my God. Planes, trains, and automobiles, welcome to Marathon, how may I help you? And he's like, you can start by wiping that fucking smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. And you can get me a fucking automobile. I did this last night. I went through the whole thing, by the way. And I won't do that to you. But that's one of the most memorable moments. And there isn't a gun fired. There isn't a shooting. There's nothing, a stabbing. There's no action. There's nothing. And I internalized that on Green Lantern and then intellectualized it when I was doing Deadpool. It's like, constraint is your friend. Use constraint. And I watch movies being made now as a producer, and I'm like, why is this budgeted at $250 or $300 million when you just don't need that much money? You just need to put something on the screen that people connect to, and it is not superpowers. It's never superpowers. It isn't. I mean, Superman 1 with Christopher Reeve is one of the best superhero movies ever made because the dude could fly. That's one thing that people really liked, and that is not what made that movie. Clark Kent made that movie. So, you get it. You go ahead. Oh, wait. I hope it's someone important. No, all right. That's happened to me, by the way. Do you have time for a 4-second tangent?
Maybe in a moment.
What if it involves Denzel Washington?
Oh. Unfortunately, we don't have Denzel Washington this afternoon.
That happened to me, though, with Denzel Washington.
Okay. But we are going to watch 2 clips.
You want to hear the Denzel Washington story, though. Anita, we've gone off the rails, and I'm sorry. Listen, if we're 4 minutes late, big deal. We're okay. We both lost our glasses earlier. We found them.
It's really trying to take me down the road,
I
you
know.
see here, right?
I'm shooting this movie called Safe House, okay? And I'm working with Denzel Washington. I'm really, really scared because he's Denzel Washington and I'm me. Anyway, I'm terrified. But the great thing is the character's terrified, so it's no problem. I just have to play scared the whole time. It's great. But the last scene of the movie, he's dying on the floor, and it's like, you know, the guy's like method actor. He said like 2 words to me the whole movie. And he knocks on my trailer door and says, "Can we rehearse?" I'm like, yes. I mean, come in. And I ripped my Denzel Washington posters down. And I'm like, yes, sit down. D, may I call you D? Yes, would you like some fresh, non-potable tap water? Anyway, he rehearses the scene with me. It's a very powerful scene. He's going to cry in the scene. It's terrible, you know, big time. With this guy, with an emotional scene, you get it twice. You get it once, and then you get it twice. Then the second time. If you fuck up, that's on you. That's not going to be on him. And he's leaving. So you better get it. So he does this emotional scene. It's crazy. There's all these stunt guys, these dead stunt guys around in the scene, and he's been shot, wounded, dying. Oh, he admits all the stuff that he did wrong. Tears start rolling down his face. And suddenly you hear, and this is take 2, by the way, because take 1, there's a technical problem. You hear, "Come fly with me, let's fly away." Dum Dum is sitting on his phone. I'm Dum Dum in this story. And I can feel everybody looking around like, what the fuck is happening right now? I can see Denzel with a tear in his eye. That, you know, like in Ghost, Demi Moore has that tear, and it's like, dude, it's gonna come down, don't stop it. And it comes down, you're like, oh God, I love you. Anyway, that was about to happen, and I'm hearing the director go, "Who the fuck's phone is that?" I hear the first AD go, "Who the fuck's phone is that?" And then finally, Denzel breaks character. They don't even call cut. "Who the fuck's phone is that?" And I stand up and I look at all those stuntmen around me and I go, "Who the fuck's phone is that?" It's inexcusable. And I look at the first AD and I go, and he was like, "D, can we do another one?" And he was like, "We're gonna have to, aren't we?" And I'm like, "Yes, these stuntmen." Oh, God. Anyway, sorry, Anita.
And now...
Carry on. Yeah. I did admit it to him later on a talk show in Spain. I said that it was me, which at that time he found hilarious. I would have been, you know, he would have turned my bones into like some sort of cottage cheese-like ass pudding on the day, though. So, you know, distance does make the heart grow fonder. Anita, please cut in.
And now, we will take a look at 2 clips. One from the original Deadpool movie from 2016, which showcases such trademark elements as the potty mouth humor and fourth wall breaks. And the other clip is a commercial that cross-promoted the most recent film, Deadpool and Wolverine, with the TV show The Bachelorette, a highly unusual combination.
That's what you came for.
Let's roll the clips.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. The Deadpool, again, is a necessity of the mother of invention. The whole, like, I've only got 12 bullets, so you're gonna have to share sequence was you know, that's a sequence that's gonna be a big action thing, you know, but we just didn't have the money. So it was like, well, like, let's create constraint and then use it. But not only that, tell the audience we're using it. You know, and the fourth wall breaks, there's actually not that many, usually like 3 or 4 in the movies. People sort of, you know, marvel, like I remember some of my first meetings with Kevin Feige going like, how do we handle all these fourth wall breaks? And I'm like, you don't. There are like a couple of them. It's not a big deal. And it's like, yeah, but you're the only one that does it. And I'm like, no, Mary McLean did it first in 1918. Actually, a woman was the first, she was an actress and a writer. She was the first fourth wall breaker. Yeah. And a glass ceiling, I guess. Yeah, so that's it. Credit where credit's due. Mary McLean, she's very, very dead now, so I, you know, can't. Nothing we can do about that, but yeah.
But you know, so many elements, I think, of this franchise, making it a really highly original superhero franchise. It's really known for its pop culture references throughout the films and, Easter eggs, comedic elements. But, we understand that beneath the surface, it also deals with more serious subject matter, loss, grief, vengeance. Can you talk a little bit about your creative process and the storytelling of these films?
Yeah, I think I think it's easy to say movies that are sort of built for broad audience delight. Larger blockbuster movies can kind of be written off sometimes, but they're, I can only speak for myself, but these are hard movies for me to make because, there's this expression called frame fucking, which is, I'm sorry, it's a terrible thing, and I hate it. That's the first time I've sworn here today, and I apologize. But you frame fuck a movie, meaning that every little frame has, you have gone through everything to kind of make sure it's all exactly right, or it's just detailed beyond measure. And they're really hard to do because Deadpool can only behave that way because he's ashamed of himself. That's his maladaptive coping mechanism, is humor. It's mine. It was John Candy's to a certain degree, as far as I can tell. John Candy being self-effacing, but not self-loathing, which is something I've always loved about him, and something that I try to push on myself a little bit more, because I can be self-loathing in instances. But so they're kind of built upon that premise, and this character is kind of this movie is just a movie about shame. I mean, this is a guy who just loses his mind with shame. He finally found love and everything that he ever wanted, and he put him in this self-imposed prison where his skin is all burned and all gross, and that's why he wears a mask. And it's not to hide his identity. It's really to hide his shame. And I really wanted to make sure that came across. And even Hugh Jackman, it was in movies you always have to have a why, and so many big studios, they make movies for what I said there, that joke, 18 to 49-year-olds, or they're aiming for some kind of demographic, and really what they're doing is they're basically aiming for your wallet, and they're trying to drag you down toward the bottom line by that wallet, and that's it. And you don't make fun stuff that way. You don't make stuff that resonates that way. You make it when you make it for yourself. So a lot of these movies, I'm really the stuff I'm writing on them, I'm writing because it makes me laugh, or it's something I want to say. And usually, if you love it that much, other people will as well, And the stuff comes fast. I mean, the Deadpool 1, it's a little bit slower because we're establishing everything. But by the time we hit Deadpool 3, we're moving quick. And I remember Marvel saying, can we get some pauses in there? Because in their tests of the movie, the audience were missing jokes. And I'm like, that's the best. That's the best problem. That's the greatest problem, because they'll come back and they'll discover something new and they'll see something. And I want that. I want them to find all those little Easter eggs. And they still haven't found all the Easter eggs in that movie. But the why that I was talking about is things like the suit. When I remember Hugh called me one day, and I was down to my last pitch for Kevin Feige. I think I was at number 18. I'd pitched him every kind of movie you can imagine. Pitched a Sundance movie of Deadpool, $2 million budget, just the suit, me and Margot Martindale in a car. That's it. We're just talking about life in a car. That was a hard pass. I wanted to do a movie that was what is a Rashomon story as well, also hard pass. The one I still want to do is a movie where Deadpool has to face the villains that he killed, but he has to meet the other 90% of them that he didn't want to see. Right? Nobody's is a villain in these movies. They're two-dimensional sometimes, right? But their story is the same as the heroes. Their origin stories. They're usually orphaned. The hero wants nobody to experience the pain that they experienced ever again, and the villain wants everyone to experience the pain that they felt. And they both want to be seen. So actually both very similar. So I've always wanted to do a movie where Deadpool has to face the people that he killed that were bad guys, but he has to see the other 90% of the human spectrum that he willfully ignored. And I think, like, again, Marvel was like, okay, shut up, next one. But with Hugh, it was like, bring him back, put the suit on, but why does he wear the suit? And the suit is a hair shirt, to quote I learned that term from the Bare Naked Ladies, so I don't know where you guys learned it. But it is an old expression for, like a shame suit, like it's your shame. And I loved that, and Hugh loved that, and he was such a fine actor, like genuinely. I remember I wrote a scene, and this dovetails to John Candy a little bit, because Deadpool and Wolverine is planes, trains, and automobiles. If you put the two movies together, you'll go, oh my God, they're the same. Like the beats are the same, they move the same. Even there's a scene in Deadpool and Wolverine where he rips me at just a new one in the van, in a Honda Odyssey. Don't recommend it. And he just tears me to it. And he has more lines in that scene than he's ever had in a single movie featuring Wolverine. And it is the same Neil Page ripping Del Griffith apart in the motel room, the Braidwood Inn in Planes, Trains. And there's one little tiny stage direction I wrote at the bottom, which is that, and it's similar to Steve Martin's character, he has this too, a flicker of regret crosses the eyes of Wolverine, but it's gone before any of us even see it. And I'd never forget this. I'm sitting 1 foot away from Hugh, and he's doing this speech, and I see that little in his eye, and it's gone. And it was just like, this man is he's just too good for this world. Like, I want this person to be happy forever. It was just, he's just such a beautiful actor, and that was just one of those moments that I'll never ever forget, and how he just embraces everything, and he's as kind to, the director or the producer of the studio as he is the PA who's starting their second day, and that means he's an asshole to everyone. Just all of them, all at once.
Yeah. I think your voice is so evident in Deadpool, and really just shows, as you talked about, your authorship and at this stage with these projects. I really loved how you made that distinction between self-effacing versus self-loathing and that nuance. I think, there is definitely something about the Canadian identity, often as sort of self-deprecating or self-effacing. Deadpool is, really a Canadian anti-hero in the Marvel universe. And you're a major Canadian player and decision maker now in Hollywood through your company, Maximum Effort, through so many projects that you do. What is it like for you now, in this particular moment, to be you and be Canadian in this kind of elbows up rallying cry? And can you just speak a little bit about that for you at this moment?
Yeah, I don't know that anything's ever changed for me. I mean, Canada's always been my North Star in many ways, just from in terms of my ideals and who I am, and I think, seeking to learn rather than win, is a hard practice, but it's something that I really try to, I mean, ironically, you win more when you're just trying to learn. When you unhook that, and it's a primal mechanism, so for God's sakes, forgive yourself when you try to win everything, because we all do. But when you can sort of take that up, unhook that for a minute and go, what can I learn here? That kind of thing led me to, again, all kind of growing up in Vancouver and being around the people I was around, and during a time in the 80s when you could get on your bike and go off with your friends, and you were unsupervised, you had to resolve conflicts together, you got hurt. You did all kinds of things. You got into adventures, you got scared. You did stuff that really forged a path ahead of resilience and determination and stamina. And it's hard to find that. I have 4 kids right now, and I'm scared because I won't let them they're not getting on a bike and going off into the city and coming back before sundown. That's insane. God, there must be a way though. Anyway, the thing is like I find that like that idea of not always trying to win led to conflict resolution for me. And you know, you talk about all these things in the world right now. Identity politics. This is the worst fucking drug in the world. Like it really is. It's just it's made everything shitty, and will continue to make everything shitty until we figure out how to get past it, because it's just binary. It's you, them. It's us, it's them, it's blah, bitty, blah, bitty, blah. And there are a few places where that still exists, you know, where togetherness does exist, you know. It exists in what we're doing right now. We're all experiencing the same thing at the same time in the same way. It's sports. That's why I love being a part of sports. It's why I love making movies. It's why I love going to concerts and watching people perform. And there's a French writer who writes about it. He calls it collective effervescence. And it is a very special thing, and it's something we should never take for granted. And it's why movie theaters and that experience need to thrive and continue to exist in the way that they've existed for a century. And I really do believe that that's something that is having a resurgence right now, but I would fight to the death to keep that alive. And when I say conflict resolution, I think if I could put my finger on one thing that made my life better, made my businesses better, my relationships better, and my family better, is conflict resolution. Is mirroring, empathizing, and validating somebody doesn't mean you have to agree with them. And I think like if we practice that at a younger age, like in schools and stuff, you wouldn't have identity politics the way we do right now. Like, man, there's nothing better than, you know, sitting on set in America working with somebody who's MAGA. And, you know, I'm not MAGA, I'm not extreme anything, but I'm certainly not that way. And I say, hey, let's swap phones for a sec. I want to see your algorithm, you can check out mine. It's cool, like you would be blown away. I remember it, I remember looking in and going like to this guy, I was like, that's compelling. Like, I kind of get, yeah, I see what you mean here. And he looked at mine and he was like, it's mine, but it's the opposite, you know? You know, and we really respond well to having our own belief systems mirrored back to us, and only that, you know? And I just think it's like, it's hard, films and sports and all those kinds of things, there are places we can go, like temples almost, where we can have an experience that is sort of objective, you know? We're not in control of it. And I love that, and I feel it. And Wrexham, you know, the football club that I'm a co-owner of, and it owns all the ulcers in my stomach. That is where I watch people. I know them all. I mean, it's a small town. I see them walking in. I know that guy's a Labour and that guy's a Tory, and I know they're opposing in every possible way. But they walk through that door. They have the same color shirt on. They put their arms around each other and they sing the same filthy fucking songs. Yeah, and it's a great thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Collective effervescence was what we witnessed for sure last night at the premiere of John Candy, I Like Me. You talk a little bit about how did this project start, and can you tell us about your collaboration with Colin Hanks, the director?
Yeah, it started with like years ago. I think about 7 years ago, we made a little video, like a 2.5-minute video, I think on John's birthday. It was just set to Dream Academy, the song from Planes, Trains, really beautiful, and it was a little bit of a retrospective, just hit some of John's some of his big moments. And that thing got, I don't know how many bajillion people loved it, and, you know, shared it, and I remember thinking, wow, people miss this guy like we miss this guy. You know, and that was the moment where we thought, well, let's do a documentary about it. But then let's, you know, dick around for 6 years. Do some other stuff. And then, you know, finally it came to a head, and thank God it did, but we kept thinking, like, why has nobody done a documentary on John Candy? So we got it going. Colin Hanks was the first and only person we went to direct it. You know, and he understood the mission right away. He had a similar appreciation, and we just dove in. And it was there's a reason the movie starts with his death, because it would be very easy and lazy to do this movie that is an inexorable march towards this man's passing. But the movie's about his life. It's not about his death. It's about his life, and his life is beautiful. And John's heart gave out at 43 years old, which was way too young in 1994. And ironically, the thing that stayed behind was his heart. Stayed behind with us, and they all say it in the movie. Bill Murray says it. You can't see this guy's face and not smile, or even just a little bit. You just can't. And I just think it's such a timely movie right now because it's hard to find somebody, I don't care what your politics are or what your ideals are, who could talk shit about John Candy. And that was Bill Murray's big problem. He was like, you can't talk any shit about him. Nobody can find any dirt on this guy. That's why you can't make a documentary. He kept saying, you can't make a documentary. And you could make it a documentary about me trying to get Bill Murray to sit the fuck down and talk about John Candy. Same with Dan Aykroyd. We just couldn't get, Bill notoriously uses a fax machine, which obviously he doesn't use a fax machine anymore because you don't. Like, who the hell, his agent, I would love to go in that room and see a fax machine. So apparently he has cellular technology. I like to think it's that big brick, the big, that my dad had. But I did get a number. A friend of a friend of a friend gave me a number, and the machine, or the outgoing voicemail, was to a Greek shipping company. And I was like, I'm just going to hedge the bet. Bill, hi, it's Ryan Reynolds. Sorry, Reynolds, not Gosling. I'd love to talk to you about John Candy. I went into this thing. I think I left about 20 of those. And then I'm on my way to an event in New York in a tuxedo, about to step out of the car. And I hate going to events. I get very anxious. I have a lot of anxiety. And the phone rings, and it says, Bill Murray. And I pick it up. Hello? Yeah, hey, Ryan, who would you say is the godfather of the spit take? I'm sorry, what now? Godfather, spit take. I don't know, Bill. I don't know. I'd say maybe Desi Arnaz. Didn't he do it? And everyone was sort of horrified or something? There was some sort of story there. No, that's wrong. It's Danny Thomas. And I realized, I just fucking failed the test. I just failed this, so I scrambled, I went, well, look, Desi might have done it first. Think of basketball. You like basketball, I think, right? Robert Naismith, I think it's Robert Naismith. Naismith was the last name. He invented basketball. He's Canadian. He did not perfect basketball. You did. America did. Danny Thomas. Danny Thomas is basketball. He perfected the spit take. So come on, man, just do the interview. and he was, I'll think about it, And then he ghosted me forever. And I kept going, God. And then finally my son, I'm making a video where I say in the video, because you're desperate when you're making a video for someone. I'm like, hey, Bill, it's Ryan again. Look, I'm running out of time, existentially and of course, literally, because death will find me. And I need you to do this interview. Please, you lived with John for 2 years. You knew him better than anybody. I just really want to hear what you have to say about him. And then my son, it's 11:30 at night, just steps into frame like a fucking horror movie. Like, what the hell's he doing up? His little Spider-Man Jingle Bells mixed messaging shirt, And he goes, I'm awake. And I go, yes, you are. I'm talking to Bill. And then I look at him and I go, tell Bill to do the interview. And he looks right down the lens and he goes, do the interview, Bill. And I said, Bill, if you can say no to a child like that, you're a monster. And I turned it off. Next thing I know, he was sitting down for the interview. And I felt very lucky about that. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to take a look at the official trailer for the film now. Amazing, amazing. Yes. When he says, I like me in that moment, just kills me.
What kills me is that moment where it's like that home video where he says, hi, Jennifer. He's talking to his daughter. And I just, I think that's one of the things about John that I think of. Sorry, I'm a mess, and I have to look away from that thing. John was a people pleaser, and he was struggling with some mental health issues. I'm not trying to say the dog whistle of mental, but everybody deals with mental health issues. I mean, everybody has, we're all carrying little bags of rocks around. And John was, it was during a time when you're right at the cusp of when you could just maybe start talking about it a little bit, But he was also a people pleaser, and these two things are antithetical to each other. When you're a people pleaser and you're having mental health issues, that's a big, big problem, because as a people pleaser, you don't want to burden anybody with your problems. You don't want to burden anybody with anything. You want to make them happy. And when you're dealing with mental health issues, the only way is through. You have to talk about it. You have to take the step forward. You have to make a moment or a minute or an hour or a day or a month or a year about you. And that, to me, is a tragedy here, because I don't know that was possible for him, at the time. And I think about his kids and what they lost, and that they spent their lives, kind of putting together this jigsaw puzzle of memories and public perception. And, imagine losing your dad, but everybody knows him or thinks they know him, and it's just heartbreaking, because 43, fuck, man, my frontal lobe was still developing at 43, and I just think it's such a tragedy. Mel Brooks calls it it was a sin to take him away from us like that, and but he is with us still, he's with us everywhere. And I will kill myself if I'll be so upset when I drive out of here and I'm not going, why didn't I mention this? The song you heard there was Cynthia Erivo, who I think is pound for pound maybe the best actor, performer in all of show business. Really one of the greats. Many of you may have seen Wicked recently, where she plays Elphaba, obviously. But that is the tip of the iceberg with the talent and what she can do. She was over at my apartment, and we were talking about this, and I wonder if it'll play through this. I don't know. But we were talking about that song. And then I get this voice. I hope this works on the microphone. Let's see. Hold on.
This one, which is one of my favorites.
Hold on. She goes.
Is it the song that goes like? I think it's this one, which is one of my favorites. Every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Ooh, every time you go away, you take a piece of me with you. Is that the one?
Yep, that's the one. I mean, to 2 weeks later, you're getting like.
If we can solve any problem.
That's all you get. Unbelievable, right? I mean,
Devastating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a bit of our walkout music. I want to ask one final question, Ryan. If there is one thing that you can say you learned from making this John Candy documentary, what would that be, and what would you like to leave the audience with today?
This is tricky, for some of you. Some of you, please, did that 5 times already today. Disappoint one person. Just one. Disappoint one person today if you're a people pleaser. If you're an a-hole, please someone. Anyone. You can scratch a dog on the head. Doesn't have to be a person. But yeah, I think have the self-awareness to sort of, understand that, not everybody in the world has to be happy with you all the time, They're not going to be. And this world is a gigantic, we're all on a screaming, spinning, flaming green and blue shit wheel flying through space, trying not to kill each other. You know, and I think it's these little moments that matter, you know. So it's if we're ever in that situation where, like, you know, you're defending your life and we're looking back at, you know, all of our years and all the things that we did, you might be a little bit disappointed, like I will, when you get to that 30-year stretch where you're staring at a little rectangle for 30 straight years. You can't see what's on it. So my worst fear is like getting to, if there is a heaven that I get to go to, I look back at my life and it's just like, but what am I doing? I'm just doing this on the thing. So yeah, it's, I don't know, I found that, like, when I'm putting it down, when I make time to put it down, and trust me, I struggle with it probably more than most in here. Life gets a lot better when I let myself experience a little awe. Awe, if you feel awe, it could be in anything. It could be in this fucking god-awful carpet. You know, that is soft to the touch. It's a low pile, so it's gonna be very easy to vacuum. Any Dyson, it doesn't even have to be top of the line, it's gonna get that. But experience awe, you know? I'm experiencing awe right now. I'm sitting here sharing this incredible moment with all of you guys. And I thank you for that. Yeah.
The one and only icon, Ryan Reynolds, thank you for sharing this afternoon with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.